woo influencers, how to wow them, how to connect, how to network. And a lot of people, it seems to be, who don't know what they're talking about, trying to teach other people who don't know what they're talking about. And you get this hodgepodge mix and techniques, but most of them just really wind up being super manipulative, dishonest, not genuine. And more than anything else, these BS tactics, you lose your reputation, you lose credibility, and you're never going to move higher circles. Thanks for joining on YouTube, where you are. You're never going to move into higher blogging circles when you lose your reputation among the pro blogging set. It's just not going to happen. You really do things the right way. So I want to go over 3 tips. Work with professional bloggers, top bloggers, high-level bloggers, and develop these skills, guys, because thanks so much, Corky and Ash, and it is just me. Is it just me? On Twitter Spaces. It's a skill. This is a real skill because you have to know how to reach out to and impress professional bloggers, all types of pitches, and have seen thousands and thousands and thousands and thousands and thousands of pitches over the course of their careers. Use a lower energy, fear-based tactic. You're going to scare these bloggers off and you'll never get in touch with them. They've seen the red flags before. They've seen desperate bloggers and greedy bloggers, and try to use them or manipulate them for their DA and their traffic and for all absurd. We've seen this as professional bloggers so many thousands of times. Tune people out if they use the wrong strategy. So there's going to be 3 really specific, same way, generic tips, because they're really about mindset. They're going to help you connect with top. First one is, if you want to build bonds with top bloggers, tip 1, be generous. So what that means is, guys, talking about being generous, I mean helping high-level professional bloggers in various ways and asking for nothing in return and expecting nothing in return. The split second you ask in return, you're not being generous because you're trying to get. And that's not generosity. That's giving with strings attached. Bad idea. Because you have no leverage. When you expect something in return, that's not being generous. Means helping someone with the of not getting anything in return. When you do this, guys, this is where most bloggers screw up when trying to network with really high-level bloggers. When you give with, so you try to get a link, you try to get a retweet, help me out, do this, do that, you lose the to influence these pro bloggers to trust you. You help bloggers generously for a while, maybe comment on their blog a few times, quote their blog on Twitter, retweet their posts, mention them on your blog, share their posts on Facebook. When you don't ask for anything in return and you don't expect anything in return, you gain trust in their eyes. They trust you more. You're gaining their trust, I should say. So they're like, wait a second, this person's helping me out. They're not asking for anything. They're interested in me. Trust these people. They're not trying to use me and manipulate me. The many people out there who are doing blogger outreach incorrectly. They're doing it the wrong way. They try to manipulate and use. And guys, when we see these individuals as professionals, we just ignore these emails. We ignore these tweets. Follow me, help me, do that. No, we paid our dues to become professional bloggers by helping other bloggers out and moving up and asking for nothing in return. As far as networking, expecting nothing in return. Now it's your turn to do that, to move higher in blogging. So be generous. drop comments on Top Blogger blog, these top bloggers on your blog, promote these top bloggers through Twitter and LinkedIn, share their content, tag them, drive traffic site, and you will begin to gain trust in their. Opens the door, because when bloggers who are pros, top bloggers, trust you, then you will begin to build relationships with them, and they begin when you don't ask them to do anything for you, because you have to earn their trust. If you're doing as a 1-for-1, you scratch my back because I scratch yours, or I'll help you out, but you got to help me out, you instantly lose the bloggers, because they already have followings. They don't need you. They already have traffic. They don't mean that in an arrogant, pejorative sense, but I literally, they're already quite successful. So if you think they need something, you're nuts. They don't. Now, they appreciate the help for sure, but you have to help them and ask for nothing. You have to prove to them to earn the right to get their attention, because they hundreds to thousands and thousands and tens of thousands of people over the years trying to get their attention with manipulation and all these really boneheaded tactics that don't work. So being generous is tip number one. Help, ask for nothing in return. Comment genuinely on their writings. Promote them on your blog. Promote their blog. Promote them on Twitter. Promote them on Facebook, on LinkedIn. You could even just email and say, hey, how could I help you? Then help them. Then don't ask for anything or expect anything. You gain their trust. And as you gain their trust, you will begin to develop a relationship. You'll begin to build a friendship with them. And then from there, building friendships with professional bloggers, and you're improving your writing skills and publishing, and then you have all these sweet, gradually over the long term, cross promotional opportunities for a lot of blog traffic, referral business. So, but that just happens in its time. Relax. This to all unfold organically. That's the best way. That's how it works. So that's tip number one. Be generous. Be honest. A lot of blogger outreach specialists and people who don't know what they're doing are not honest. They're dishonest. Some cases they lie outright. They're not genuine. They're not authentic, because they'll say, hey, if they even reach out with a handout and say, I helped you out, I did your latest post. And then you might email them back and say, oh, thanks, appreciate it. And then they'll email you back and say, now do this for me, or can you do this for me? The only reason why, and I used to get this a lot when I did the roundups with bloggers who I didn't know, they hadn't built a relationship. So they'd be like, here, you're in this expert roundup. I want to give you exposure. Great. And then I stopped doing them after a while, just because it didn't really resonate with me. And this was a little tiring, this tactic. After I completed roundup and I gave them 5 or 10 minutes of my time from my busy schedule to answer their question amongst 30 or 40 or 50 other sneeze alert guys, other bloggers. Okay, I thought it was coming. Then they would tell me after, when the post went live, they'd say, Ryan, thanks so much. The post is live. You have to tweet this to your following. Can you please share on Facebook? It was this begging, like a blogger begging. So I already gave them the time to answer the question, spending 5 or 10 minutes, and then they're begging me to promote it So that's not being honest. And there's a reason for that. When you're grateful that I gave you 5 to 10 minutes of time from my busy schedule, the value to add to your blog, my name and blogging from associated with your blog, your business, your brand, that's good enough. But when you're me to share the post, please tweet, please share it on Facebook, mention it on your blog, like all these requests, it proves that you're not being genuine. It's like you wanted me not only for the expert roundup, but then to use my audience, to use my Twitter following to access that. So that's not being genuine. It's not being direct. Now, if you've built a very strong relationship with me over many months and years, out a lot to gain my trust, then I happily retweet the post. It's all about rebuilding. You have to really bond with someone by helping them out a lot, the strings of expectation and attachment to reach the space where quote unquote ask for favors. But when you reach out and ask and say, hey, could you post? I know you took your time to share your thoughts with my readership. Now I want to ask you for something else. It's like the second ask. And in other cases, bloggers are just totally manipulative. I'm just reviewing a post here. You can't think about yourself because this tip, some bloggers outright remember this individual now. I'm thinking about being less than genuine, but there's a blogger who reached out to me once who wanted a link on Blogging from Paradise. And he said he would pay me for a sponsored post. So I'm like, all right, I'll consider it. But I checked his business page and the writing, he didn't have a firm grasp of the English language. And that's okay, but I didn't know what type of sponsored post it would be. I only accepted sponsored posts. But then there was, because I saw that he said he was featured on Forbes. And I'm like, okay, featured on Forbes. I've been featured on Fox News and Entrepreneur and Neil Patel's blog and, ProBlogger, so, a lot of top sites. And to get featured on, you really have to be skilled and experienced and connected. And I'm like, this guy doesn't really write that well. So I asked him if he Forbes, and figured he wasn't. And then he asked me why. I said, well, if you're going to get featured on my blog, I have to know that you're actually on Forbes. And I said, as I get the sense you're lying and you weren't featured on Forbes. No offense, but, and then he said he's not going to take the icon down and don't worry about it. So obviously, asinine when you out and out lie and you say you're featured on sites, and then as far as blogger outreach, you're lying to bloggers. And it sounds insane, but obviously people do this. They make stuff up. But independent of this like egregious lying, saying you're featured on, network of bloggers and lying about where you've been featured and making stuff up, and there's also the ridiculousness of just trying to use. So it's not being honest, it's not being genuine, it's not being authentic, trying to use a blogger for their platform. So be generous and be genuine. Be honest. Tell the truth about yourself. Never embellish or make things up. And don't try to use a blogger to get a link. Don't try to manipulate a blogger don't ask them once. That's the first ask for help. Content for an expert roundup, and then ask them again. Can you help me now? Can I help me again? That second ask could be really rough until you build a relationship with someone, because ultimately you're proving that you're not being honest. You wanted to, number one, in likeness and knowledge and wisdom for content on your blog. Then you wanted to use asking, because you're being like, oh, you're featuring me, you're going to give exposure. You're trying to get access to our audience. You know what I mean? There's too much, pardon my French, horse shit out there that's manipulative. horseshit blogger outreach methods that are not honest. They're not genuine. That type of stuff. It's kind of scummy. It's really low energy, and it's using another human being's relationship with them. And you're never going to make inroads with top bloggers by trying to use them, because they've seen it 10,000 or 20,000 times already, or 30 or 50,000 through email. They ignore it. So they're going to see the red flags from miles away. And tip number, I was doing a bit, so I'm going to do a shorter space and YouTube video tonight. Test. After those 2 practical mindset tips, be help, ask for nothing in return, expect nothing in return, be genuine, be scummy. Don't try to use people or manipulate people because they'll see it a mile away. You have to be and persistent in building strong relationships with professionals, because they have a lot of people vying for their attention, and it's the generous, genuine, most persistent bloggers who keep showing up who stand out. You're not going to impress a top blog enough to build a strong relationship with them based on one blog comment and retweet, because they already have a bunch of bloggers commenting on their blogs patiently and retweeting their posts and sharing their posts on Facebook. And like, when you're established, guys, you're getting help at every corner because you've been helped for so long. So if you show up and retweet someone's post and you expect to stand, showing no persistence, a lack of persistence, to stand out from some very persistent blogging friends, it will never happen. You got to show up for days and weeks and months, on a daily basis if this is a high-level blogger, because they already have these huge loyal tribes. And now it's up to you to stand out in that crowd, rise to the top through your persistence. So commenting on blogs genuinely for a week, and for 2 weeks, and for a month, asking for nothing. You're being generous and being honest. You have to really persist with your networking to stand out from the crowd. You got to keep at it. And this is the point where most bloggers go south. I mean, a lot of them aren't really generous or necessarily genuine, but very few are persistent. And that's why they're effective bloggers. I think about a top blogger. He's been, well, I don't know if he's still blogging now, but really high-level guy who built relationships with the people who handled syndication, the heads of syndication at, I think, Forbes, Entrepreneur, and maybe Inc.com. In them and dying them, literally. He took these people out to lunch, paid for their lunch. He helped them out over a series of months as he's publishing this helpful content. Well, by patiently playing the long game and keeping at it, he eventually gained these folks' trust and built friendships, relationships with them, to where they decided to syndicate every post he published on Forbes and on Entrepreneur, and I think it was Inc. And then he started getting hundreds of thousands to millions of views, and everything took off. He became a 7-figure blogger. He was getting 1,000 emails a day. He patiently and persistently for months asked for nothing, built friendships, paid for these people's lunch, helped them out, built strong friendships with the heads of syndication. Think that's what Entrepreneur thinks, like a high-level top blogger, which then he earned their trust, led to them not only appreciating his content, saying, we're going to syndicate it because we trust you. That's the high-level stuff, guys. This is not survival. This is not a day-to-day trying to get as much as you can out of each day. This is someone with a vision. So when he was getting millions and millions of views, when all of his posts were going out to hundreds of thousands of readers from Forbes, an Entrepreneur, and I think it was Inc.com, Inc., that's when he became wildly successful. But he had to be persistent and patient in building relationships with these quote-unquote top bloggers, folks. So guys, be really patient, be really persistent. Take time, especially in the networking game. When you want to connect with a top blogger, and persistent part, it's going to help you stand out because most bloggers are totally impatient. Distance, they give up on networking after dropping 3 or 4 comments. Come on. I was contributing to a high level blog with 1 million readers, 1 million member readership. They had millions of people on Facebook. Published in-depth comments on each post after post. Not every single post, but at least a few times a week for many months. And their trust. I played the long game. Then eventually, when I did pitch them, they're people I've ever pitched. Everything else came to me. My patience and persistence in building relationship, trust of editors from this site yielded an opportunity. Okay. Submit your first post. Submit your pitch post. I did. They loved it. Knew me from the relationship I built. So I stood out from all those thousands and tens of thousands of other people. And I went up to them and some of their other contributors. I was a long-term contributor, full-time contributor. Some of them are Mark Cuban, owner of the Dallas Mavericks, Seth Godin, Mark icon and legend, Jack Canfield, Chicken Soup for the Soul. Buff was one of the contributors. I might still be on there. But when you think about it, that relationship building, since I wasn't famous or an icon, I had to stand out. Just like that high-level, top-level blogger had to build relationships. Helping without asking. Helping without the ask. So, guys, that's it for today. This will be a quick 20-minute one because I want to do a little yoga exercise. I already did some walking and get that in and some stuff to do, grab a dinner and head out for a little bit. So be generous, be genuine, be honest, and be really connect with top bloggers. And of course, when you're connecting with top bloggers, sweet opportunities will flow your way over the long haul. Success will be amplified. So, ta-ta, YouTube and Quirky